Okay, everyone, please pause exactly where you are. The news I must deliver right now is so completely unprecedented and truly bizarre to comprehend tonight. If someone suggested this morning that we would be discussing this specific event, I would have called them crazy. Donald Trump was kicked out of America. I am not using hyperbole. He was literally and officially removed following what observers are calling the most intense showdown in state history. This massive conflict between Donald Trump and Governor Gavin Newsom concluded with Newsom utilizing a legal tool that almost every constitutional expert was totally unaware existed. Please stick with me this evening because we must analyze exactly what transpired. We have to comprehend the specific legal authority that Governor Newsom actually utilized. We also must discuss the parliamentary maneuvers that made this possible. We must face the reality that a former U.S. president was forcibly expelled from California. This is certainly not a drill or speculation. It is happening live. Let us begin at the start, as the timeline leading here is truly shocking. Here is exactly what occurred 3 days ago. The California state legislature sent a subpoena, a binding legal document, ordering Trump to appear before a session. They wanted him to testify regarding fraud allegations that the state brought against him. This action alone was highly unusual and rare for a state legislature. State governments do not usually subpoena private citizens for testimony that normally occurs at the federal level within Congress or perhaps through standard judicial court proceedings. However, California possesses a rarely known section in its constitution. Article EV Section 11 allows the body to force testimony from anyone residing within the state. It applies to those doing business there when investigating public corruption or fraud affecting state interests. Trump's legal team immediately fought against this specific legislative subpoena. They claim Trump does not live in California, and as a former president, he deserves specific protections. They argued this was just pure political harassment tactics. However, this is where it gets fascinating. Yesterday, a state judge ruled the subpoena valid, noting Trump owns properties and conducts major business operations within California. The judge stated California has broad investigative powers regarding fraud. Trump faced a choice: comply and appear, or face contempt charges which carry serious legal consequences. Being himself, Trump decided to show up but refused to cooperate. He chose to fight. This morning, he appeared before the joint session in Sacramento today. What happened next? I have interviewed 3 witnesses inside that room and read the transcript. It is crazy. Trump entered the chamber looking extremely agitated already. Witnesses say he did not sit calmly at the table like a normal witness. He stood up, pacing around and pointing fingers at the state legislators. This was meant to be a formal hearing. Lawmakers had inquiries about specific deals, documents, and valuations that California claims were fraudulent business practices by Trump. Trump immediately went on the attack. I do not use that phrase lightly. Witnesses report he was screaming that this was a total political witch hunt. He shouted that California is a failed state and Newsom is the most corrupt governor ever. The speaker tried to restore order and remind him of oaths. He was reminded he must answer questions in this formal proceeding. Trump's response per the transcript was, "I do not recognize the authority of this body." Those were his exact words. Things could have gone many ways. They could have held him in contempt or removed him for security reasons right then. They might have referred it to police. But Gavin Newsom did something unexpected. Newsom was not supposed to be present as the legislature ran the hearing. The governor's office was involved, but Newsom was not scheduled. About 20 minutes into the fight, Gavin Newsom walked into the chamber and the room silenced. Newsom walked down the aisle, approached Trump, and spoke. The transcript says, "Mr. Trump, you are under oath. You have been lawfully subpoenaed by this body. You were asked questions regarding criminal fraud and you refused to cooperate." Trump replied, "I don't answer to you or this corrupt legislature or recognize authority." That is when Newsom said something historic. He stated, "Then you leave me no choice under the authority granted by the Constitution of the state of California. Using emergency powers and consulting the Attorney General, I declare you persona non grata. You are expelled. I am referring this to federal authorities immediately today." He recommended that Trump's presence constitutes a threat to ongoing criminal investigations. The room erupted. Trump shouted, legislators yelled, and security moved toward the former president. Newsom stood completely calm and ordered, "Remove him from this chamber. Remove him from this state. If he attempts to return, he will be arrested immediately." Let me explain the legal side, as this is vital. Persona non grata is a term used in diplomacy, meaning an undesirable person in that country, when a nation declares a diplomat. Persona non grata, they must leave. It expels someone without deportation. Few knew California has a state version of this. It is rooted in a 19th century law, Section 621 of the Penal Code. It grants the governor emergency authority to declare any person a public threat. He can order their removal from California to protect state legal proceedings. This law was created during the gold rush to handle fugitives disrupting mining claims. It has existed for over 150 years and was never used until today. Newsom invoked this obscure law and declared Trump persona non grata. He ordered immediate expulsion, but he went further, which is the extraordinary part. Remember, Newsom said he was referring the matter to federal authorities regarding threats? This means Newsom is asking the federal government to treat Trump as a flight risk and a threat to the integrity of state and federal investigations. Here is where things get crazier. Hours after the declaration, the Department of Justice issued a statement saying they were reviewing Governor Newsom's referral and options. They are evaluating legal ways to ensure the integrity of investigations. This is not a commitment to expel him, but it is certainly not a rejection. It is an acknowledgement they are taking the request seriously, according to sources, and I must be cautious here. There are discussions at the highest levels. The Dodge is debating if they have legal authority to restrict Trump's movements or compel him to leave while multiple criminal investigations remain unresolved right now. I know that sounds insane and impossible in the United States, but we are in uncharted territory. Legally, this is very murky. It is extremely questionable. The idea that a governor can expel a U.S. citizen is dubious. There are constitutional issues. The Constitution guarantees the right to travel freely between states. Citizens of one state are entitled to privileges of all states. You cannot expel someone just because you dislike them. However, there are exceptions for safety. If someone is a fugitive, states restrict movement. If someone threatens criminal proceedings, courts impose restrictions. The question is whether Trump meets that specific legal standard. Newsom argues he does. He says Trump's refusal to comply, his disruption, his attacks on legal processes make him a threat to California's criminal investigation. Trump's lawyers will argue the opposite. They will claim political persecution and that Newsom lacks authority. Honestly, I do not know who is legally right today. We have never been here before, so practically, where is Trump? Reports say after being expelled, he was escorted by law enforcement to Sacramento International Airport. He was not arrested. He was accompanied. He boarded his private jet, and according to flight data, that plane took off about 3 hours ago tonight. Here is the interesting part. We do not know where the plane is going. Flight trackers showed it heading east, consistent with Florida, but transponders stopped. When transponders turn off, the aircraft disappears from tracking sites. This is legal for private jets, but it means we do not know Trump's current destination. Is he returning to Mar-a-Lago? Is he leaving the country? Is he planning to challenge the expulsion by returning? We simply do not know the answer. That uncertainty adds chaos. Political reactions are wild. Democrats and progressives are celebrating. They see this as Newsom finally standing up to hold Trump accountable. Ayok tweeted that this is what accountability looks like. Elizabeth Warren stated that refusing to cooperate with legal proceedings should have consequences, and Newsom is right. Republicans are deeply concerned. Mitch McConnell issued a statement saying he has serious doubts about the constitutional authority to expel a former president from a state. He says it sets a troubling precedent. Trump's loyal supporters are losing their minds. There are calls for protests and for Republican governors to retaliate immediately. Marjorie Taylor Greene called this tyranny and a declaration of war on half the country. We are in a moment of extreme division and total unknown. I want to give historical context, but there is no comparable situation. We have had conflicts between states and federal power, but nothing like this expulsion, restricting a former president's freedom of movement is unprecedented. The closest parallel might be Andrew Johnson clashing with Congress during Reconstruction, but that was very different. Or maybe how states treated Confederates after the Civil War, but those people took up arms. Trump served a full term and left office relatively peacefully. Expelling him for refusing to cooperate with an investigation is new territory. This creates a genuine constitutional crisis. The core question is, can a state expel? The Constitution does not explicitly address it. Interstate travel is fundamental. Courts say states cannot arbitrarily bar people, but exceptions exist for fugitives and criminal safety. Is Trump's situation analogous to those exceptions? Newsom says yes, arguing obstruction of justice. Trump's team says absolutely not, citing First Amendment rights to criticize proceedings. Both sides have plausible arguments, meaning this will end up in the Supreme Court. There is another layer. Trump faces legal issues in multiple other jurisdictions: New York, Georgia, and federal. Cases exist. If Trump is expelled from California and restricted, what does that mean for those other important legal cases? Can New York compel him for sentencing? This could create a logistical nightmare. Multiple states trying to assert jurisdiction while Trump is stuck in the middle. It is a nightmare for any defense team. Trump responded on social media. He called Newsom a tyrant and criminal, vowing he would be vindicated soon. He called it the greatest abuse of power. His lawyers will file emergency motions to overturn the order and seek damages, but he has not returned. Despite bluster, Trump has not flown back to dare authorities to arrest him. This suggests his lawyers know the ground is shaky or he is strategic. Newsom is not backing down. He held a press conference tonight and was defiant. He said Trump came under subpoena but refused to answer questions lawfully. Newsom said he used authority given by the people because Trump poses a threat to the legal system. He framed this as a rule of law. This is a smart political move. It makes it harder to paint as partisan. Now let's talk about what we don't know, as there is much. Will federal authorities take action? The Dodge is reviewing, but what does that mean? Will they back the expulsion or stay out of the conflict entirely? What will courts do? When will judges rule on constitutionality? Will Trump return? If he does, will he be arrested? Will Republican governors retaliate against California? What does this mean for the 2028 election? Both will likely run. This confrontation defines their campaigns. These unanswered questions make this moment incredibly chaotic today. International implications are significant. Foreign governments are watching. The idea that a former president can be expelled alarms allies and emboldens our adversaries around the world. Russian media claims American democracy is failing. If Trump's movements are restricted, can he travel internationally? Will countries grant him visas or view him as fleeing? This affects America's image. This is a historic moment. We are witnessing something new. A governor used an obscure law to expel a former president today. Federal authorities are considering restrictions. Courts are weighing fundamental questions. Law students will study this for generations. I do not know how this situation ends legally, but the decisions made soon will shape democracy. Watch the court rulings. Watch the Dodge. Watch Trump's next move. Watch legislative actions and public opinion closely. This is a constitutional crisis. We cannot pretend this is normal. It affects the kind of country we are becoming. Stay informed and think critically tonight. Thank you for watching this broadcast. We will have more updates as this story develops further.